Questions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome everybody to our Ask Gun Questions show, and this is our second, I guess, well, probably way more than that, but our last SHOT Show special edition before this year's SHOT Show. So if anybody does have any questions about SHOT Show, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, Tony and I will probably just talk about it a little bit. But thanks for jumping in. Sorry it took me a minute to get everything set up here, but appreciate you being apt and able, or whatever the word is, like able to jump into these things at the last minute like this. Anyway,
yeah, man. Glad to be here. Let's talk about some stuff.
So, yeah, I'm afraid. Is that the way I say it?
Mm-hmm.
Frazzled, I guess.
Yep.
Just get everything ready. Here's my 20th year, but still, things didn't even, for me at least, it wasn't even a done deal till yesterday. Today's Saturday, till Friday, till I could secure the place and everything. I had to fix the van up. That costed, let's just say, 3 times more than I thought it was gonna. So that killed all budget I had. And I'm back on credit cards again. So, but whatever, we're still going to SHOT Show, right? So, what kind of questions, since we've already talked about it a billion times, what kind of questions have you been getting this year about SHOT Show? And maybe if that's too broad a question or too general, like anything different this year than other years in the past that you've been getting questions from like other people about?
No, I was. Well, you mean just regular people about what's happening or what's going to be at SHOT?
I figure that's a good question. Not like regular people that are like, "Hey, what's you're doing?" You say, "Oh, I'm going on a trip," and then they say, "Where?" You know, like gas station guy.
Oh no.
But like a regular person, like your audience, somebody in the community, or maybe attendee at the shoot for sure. You're going with all your podcast folks, so you know, people that are outside of that realm, but still gun people. Usually they either fall into the realm like they don't know what SHOT Show is, or they do and they wish they could go, or they could care less. And I'm just curious what's the pulse this year?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, shoot, they're excited as I was, you know, when I heard about SHOT Show and what it actually is as a gun dude. I'm like, yo, that's got to be freaking awesome. And it is. I mean, as a gun guy, it's awesome. And, you know, they ask questions like, what's going to be the new stuff? What are you going to look at? And, you know, I got my list. I was actually making that up yesterday of places I 100% want to stop at. You know, booths I want to stop at. So one of the guys was asking me about Mossberg's new 930 that they just put out. He's geeked up about that. So I'll send some pics, you know, from that. Some people got some questions about the Kimbers. So it's usually about, you know, the different things, different pet things that they dig, different gun companies they want to check out. I find it funny because I got 1, 2, 3, like 4 different people that are gun guys who are excited about SHOT and want to go or wish they could go that I speak to regularly. And it's usually just things. And, you know, just different manufacturers. No one has actually said anything about the PSA 5.7 that loads with stripper clips and doesn't have a removable magazine.
Keltec.
Like, yeah, Keltec, I'm sorry. Like they go, wow, that seems different. But understand, I'm
yesterday though, whenever you sent me that link, right? Like that was the first time they showed it, I think.
Yeah, that was where I saw it, you know, when they put it up, somebody else had it and I just copied it and recorded it. So my whole thing with that is cool. You got something, but living here in Jersey, and those are the guys that are interested in the firearms, you know what I mean? Jersey legal firearms. They weren't impressed by it because they know it didn't make any difference to us. We still can't have it. And now you've made it without a detachable magazine. So how do we pin it to 10 rounds? And what if you go outside of Jersey? You know what I mean? So great. Now I got a gun that's limited to 10 rounds.
So in New Jersey, it's not a detachable issue. It's a capacity issue.
Yeah, all of them are. All of them are the capacity issue. Nobody fell for the okie doke. The anti-gunners weren't that stupid.
No.
I mean,
The 94 assault weapons ban said detachable magazines, so that's when they started creating SKSs with the mags and stuff. But
yeah.
new ones, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like historically, they've gone after detachable mags. But I guess you're saying that the New Jersey law didn't fall into that loop. They just went straight to capacity and didn't care the fee.
Oh, I think everybody on the state level. Now, the federal thing was one thing, but on the state level, everybody got the same wording. Because remember, they're all hooked together. They're all funded by the same people. And that's why a lot of the assault weapons things have the same wording. And they changed the wording to include however it holds ammo. That is not a loophole that George Kelgren created. It's just
No, he made the P10 or whatever. I own one that's a 380 that uses M16 stripper clips. M16 stripper clips are just to load mags though, so they were essentially garbage. You'd use them once to load a mag and you'd throw them away, and then I don't think they ever really used them. So I think the idea was to use those with 380 because they have the same head stamp, I guess, or the same rim. But it was. I don't think it was designed to be a. What are you saying? Like no, to comply with a bullshit law. Yeah, like not a loophole. I don't like calling them loopholes because that implies that we're trying to do something. But in reality, there's just bullshit laws that make dumb rules. But I don't think it was for that because he made it in the 80s before concealed carry and stuff. I just think he likes that idea. And I'm guessing, like you pointed out, is it the broom handle? I forget which one of them German guns.
Well, it is. There's not only the Broomhound and Mauser. Darn, there's another one. It looks kind of like the old Savage. I think it's a Roth something.
Yeah, there's a cooler than that one. But there's like two old guns. I'm just guessing as a good gun designer because he's really a designer. He's a engineer or whatever. I think he's just trying to bring that element in. The same way that somebody might do those T-tops on a car or those gull wings. You know, not that many people like them, but some people do. I just don't get it. Like I own a P10, which is the Kelgren. So the guy we're talking about, George Kelgren, who started Keltec, that was after he was created the P9 or what is it called? The Tech 22? No, the Tech 9. The Tech 9.
Tech 9, yeah.
Which would have been the Intertech 9 or something in full auto. He created when he worked at a place in Sweden. And then they tried to sell that to the United States, and then they're like, we can't buy those. They're not full or they're full auto and nobody wants them. So then they're like, oh, we'll make them semi-auto. And then people wanted the shit out of them. So they sold a bunch of them. The government said, no, they're open bolt. So it's too easy to make them full auto. And nobody pushed back. And they said, you got to make them a different way. And they went, all right, we'll make them closed bolt. So now they redesigned the submachine gun into this gun that had issues, didn't have issues. That's a whole nother discussion. I'm just kind of catching people up on who Kelgren is. So after that Tech 9, that's a piece of culture. Like that's a whole nother discussion. But after that phenomenon, he starts a company called Grendel. Grendel, right? And then he creates about 3 or 4 guns over there. They're super cool. 22 Magnums. They don't work because of rim lock, and he figures that out. Essentially, somebody has to figure this shit out. It's not like anybody with 2020 hindsight can go, I knew that wouldn't work because look, it doesn't work. Well, he didn't fucking know that. He invented a gun and was part of the process of us figuring out that 22 Magnum it's a cone. It's a slanted round and it doesn't lend itself to magazines. But he helped figure that out. But he also made these other guns, and then after a while. I don't know the story. I tried getting it from him when I interviewed him one time, but he didn't want to talk about it, or I didn't ask him the right questions. He still kind of speaks other languages more than English, or as much as English. So he's not quite like talking to Glock, but he was kind of like talking to Glock, right? Like they speak, they spend life speaking some other language, and then they came over here. But he's been here a long time. He's been here since the 80s. But anyhow, I asked him what the difference was with the Grendel. He liked the P10. Like he made a point. I can't remember exactly because this was like years ago now when I interviewed him. But I had a couple of minutes with him, and I was not good at interviewing people yet, so I didn't ask him questions, and I didn't do enough research. That's one of the reasons I wasn't good at interviewing. I learned that you got to do research before you talk to somebody else. You look like a fucking idiot, and you don't ask them any relevant questions. You just ask them like, "What do you think of the weather today?" Like nobody gives a shit about that interview.
Yeah.
So, but I did find out I can also offend people by asking them questions because I didn't do any research. So I could kind of, I got the impression that he really liked the P10, but he didn't want to talk about what happened with Grendel and Caltech and all that. So I just don't know myself. I'm sure there's rumors on the internet that would fill me in, but something happened with Grendel and then Caltech starts. And, you know, sometimes it's a financial thing. Sometimes it's the company goes out of business, or sometimes they get sued, or sometimes, I don't know, fuck the nitty connectivity thing, right? Maybe he went into car racing or something and he came back into guns. Like, I have no idea, but that's where Caltech comes from. So this guy's been an inventor, I guess is what I'm getting at, a long time. And he's made a bunch of clever guns. Like, I think they're cool. They're not, they're not Smith and Wessons. They're not Colts. Like Colt and Smith and Wesson were like, let's invent guns and then let's find out what people want to do with them. Kill each other? Awesome. Let's make guns that kill each other really good. And then, and I'm fine with saying that because they did make those guns to do that back in the day. And then they figured out, oh, wait, there's a shit ton of other uses for guns besides killing each other. And then, boom, Ruger, every other company happens. Like, there's all these other guns out there that are definitely not made to kill each other. And that's where Kellgren comes in. Like, if you want to shoot the dirt, which is what we do, everybody can act like we're some country of gun owners, like we are. But what do we do with them? 1,000% all we do is shoot them at dirt. Like, maybe the brick wall. We either shoot them at dirt, a brick wall, or a piece of metal. We almost never do it at anything else. Some criminals shoot it at people, and people defending themselves shoot back, and cops do stuff. But other than that, and, you know, out in war. But other than that, all we do is shoot dirt. So when you're looking at all the different guns that exist, you can make them look as cool as you want, or you can make them look as high speed and low drag as you want. But in reality, only a couple of people are using them for that kind of stuff, and everybody else is shooting at dirt. And Kellgren is building guns that are cool, like they're just guns. So I'm a big fan of guns because of the mechanisms, because of the history, and because of their interaction with society and everything, not just pulling triggers on them. And I'm definitely not like one of these one-trick ponies that's like, if it doesn't work for CCW, it doesn't need to exist, because you're pretty much the person who's like, guns are only made to kill people. Like, nah, they're super fun, and you can buy. I own tons of guns. I probably own more guns, and I'm not bragging because my guns are cheap, but I own way more guns that are just weird and dumb looking because I like them than probably some people even own guns. You know what I mean? Because I have my CCW guns, and I got my guns for important shit, but I've got my guns that are goofy, and I like them. And that's where I'm not saying Kellgren is making like comic relief guns, but I'm going to give him like all the room he wants to make a gun that's different or whatever. And you get that bendy. What's that bendy one? I don't even know what it is. I used to own one. The thing that bends in half, and then Smith and Wesson copied it. You know, that thing is
the Caltech 2000.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, the sub 2000, right?
And that 2000,
thing, like, a lot of people hate it. A lot of people think it's the best thing ever. You know, so a lot of people, I think what happens is you think it's the best thing ever. You get it thinking it's going to be like, you know, I'm going to Mount Everest with this, fighting off koala bears or whatever. And then you figure out, oh, you know what, you wiggle it too many times or too fast, and it does break. It's not designed to be taking up top of Mount Everest and fighting off bears. But it can do a lot of stuff. Anyhow, I think that I'm trying to say that I'm trying to give them all the credit in the world. That being said, I don't get a stripper clip pistol because how do you clear it? That's my main issue. I own a P10. You can't clear that. If it has an issue, you can't drop the mag. And it's more than just manual of arms. Like, we all know, okay, something happened with my pistol, I'm going to drop the mag and try to clear it, because you drop the mag first, you don't chamber a new round. Well, guess what? When the mag is internal, what do you do? And there's no answer to that. It's a real pain. So, I mean, talk about tedious and crazy when the thing has a live round in it and you're trying to pull the slide back and there's no mag way to pull the mag. It's just, I don't like that. So I like guns, and I like guns that are things, but some things I think are not, unless I'm missing something. And I might go over and ask them, but I'm not going to be confrontational. I suspect, I don't know. I would have said in 2012 to 2014, people would have walked up to Caltech and said, what the hell are you doing this? And had a camera on and said, what are you doing this? Do people do that anymore? I don't think people are.
I think most people aren't that much of jerks. Most people are educated enough to know, you know, you say that one time, even if you don't have a big channel, word's going to get around about you and no one's going to talk to you. And truthfully, the way SSF is now, they'll throw you the hell out of the show and ban you for life.
Yeah, well, I was kind of going to allude to that, but no, you hit it dead on. That's the reason nobody does that shit anymore, is because they're scared. They don't want to ruin their channels. And what used to be like, we can do whatever we want. We're from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff you just said happened, and now no one does any of that. But I also think people are greedy shit nowadays. I'm cynical, I guess, but everybody's trying to make a buck off of everything, and they don't have the balls to call somebody on something that they see as an issue. I don't think this is an issue, but I'm just saying I don't think anybody's going to call them out this year either. Like you're saying, people will walk over and look at it and then walk away and whisper to their friend about it, but nobody's going to.
Well, see, my issue with it is not with the firearm itself, is with how they're advertising it as the ultimate CCW carry gun. And I'm like, what about what you're doing? I understand the lightweight. I don't get the caliber, but it barely makes no difference to me. It's centerfire. It has low recoil. It should have an easy to rack slide because of the caliber. I get all that. I get the fact that it's optics ready. Cool. But that stripper clip thing, it seems to me how you train, unless they did something different to it, how do I strip off a round when I have a malfunction, when I drop it and I have a weird feed malfunction? How does that work? And that's all I'm with. I'm like, look, it can be the greatest range gun ever. It could be the greatest plinker ever. It could be a fun gun. I don't care if it's a blunderbuss. What's up with that? And then to try to pass it off as something new or innovative just annoyed the gun nerd in me. And that's one of the reasons. Number one reason, not a carry gun, in my opinion, based on the fact that you can't strip the mag out and do a malfunction clearance. Number two, gun nerd part of me who's like, yo, that's bull crap. That's 130-year-old technology. That was 1890s technology. That and the Steyr. I forgot the name of the Steyr, but it's a Steyr that uses stripper clip too. And that comes from my old days of reading just the old ass books on firearms. You know what I mean? Reading things about about the Savage line of pistols that were from the early 1900s and into the military test, that kind of stuff. So that was just annoying. And then, of course, the people, oh, this is great. You guys are just haters. No, I don't hate any of it. I just get annoyed by the lack. Look, everybody doesn't have to know what I know or be as deeply into this as I do. But don't be mad at me if I can point out that you're getting smoke blown up your butt because it's marketing. I don't feel I did anything wrong, and I don't feel like I trashed the company. Now, other people are, and I'm like, look, leave them alone. They're Keltec. They're doing, that's what I wrote on my Instagram. It's Keltec being Keltec. I don't expect Keltec to be HK. And if you do, you're silly. Keltec makes fun guns that are cutting edge, and he does innovative things, but everything he does is not innovative. Reinventing the wheel, instead of calling it peanut butter and jelly, you call it jelly and peanut butter sandwiches. Doesn't mean you made anything new.
Or if you flip and put the peanut butter on the outside and say that that's invention, like, I don't know if that's kind of stretching it too.
But you didn't do anything new. You okay, great. I would have felt the same way if you put a red dot on a Mauser broom handle.
Is there a broom handle
Mauser? No, but if you did,
barely look at it. I didn't see if it was a rail.
It's got a red dot cut out, which is cool.
I guess we could show it on the screen since we're talking about it. It's Keltec. Do you know what the name of it is?
The Keltec 5.7.
Oh, because it's in 5.7. It's something 5.7. It's in 5.7. I forgot that's the other thing about it. I like 5.7. Somebody was saying they don't like 5.7. We should probably acknowledge people. We've been sitting here bullshitting. So thanks, Tony, for joining. And we got a bunch of people joining us live. And that's what it's all about. So it shouldn't be, we just got into it here. But Hemi is out there. Welcome. And Gun Owners Radio is out there. Good afternoon. DJ's joining us. Thanks for dropping some links in here for us. DJ, I have to remember to jump over and point the show at Suicide Prevention Saturday, which now is called Mental Health. Wait, I forgot what the new show. They retitled it because it is such a burden with the logarithm on YouTube not being useful or effective on understanding people that are trying to have a productive, positive conversation with the topic of suicide prevention. And they conflate that with negative stuff, and they forced her to change the name of the channel or the name of the show. But anyway, on Saturdays, Brooke has a focus on the thing that accounts for 2 out of every 3 deaths with a firearm. The other side will never say, they'll have to say like gun violence, and then they'll say gun deaths, but they can't say criminal use of guns because it's a very low percentage. It's like 1,000 or something a year. It's like really not that much considering how big the country is and how much violence there is. It's just that guns are really not that deadly. But anyway, the actual deadly part of firearms, 2 out of every 3 is deaths with a firearm is suicide. And that's an intentional thing. You could call it violence if you want, and it's stretching it because they need to, use words to their advantage to make money. But in reality, and that we know that approximately, and it changes, but it's approximately 22 people a day commit suicide, and that's in the veteran community alone. And if you count EMS and LEO, that gets even higher. And I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't think it's because guns are more deadly. Guns are not very deadly. And honestly, they can be in the trained hands, and people who use guns and people that know guns might use guns for suicide. But same way that doctors are going to use pills and a construction worker is going to jump off of something. Like you use what is going to be effective. But those unsuccessful suicide ones are all the people who never picked up a gun before. So anyway, getting into it, the people that are most affected by preventing suicides are military and law enforcement, people that need the most awareness and need the most and have the most, most to gain from the public understanding the issue. And who gains the most when people keep dying? The antis, because they use those numbers against us. They don't give a shit about the people who are dying, although they do something about it. In fact, anytime something like Suicide Prevention Saturday, there's only really 5 organizations. Well, there's 3 on our side and then a bunch of military ones, but there's a handful of organizations that are working to prevent suicide. And the antis don't touch any of them. They don't even associate with any of them. Maybe they're in the same room with Walk to Talk America, but that's it. Anyway, without getting on too much of a thing, thanks DJ for helping out with Brooke all the time. And yeah, Mental Health Matters. Thanks. That was the name that she rebranded it to. But we'll attach this show to that show. That's why I went on this rant. And Brooke's effort is literally the best thing going. She's not going to be a shot show, unfortunately, but
oh, really?
Yeah,
that sucks.
She shouldn't have money, I guess. So that's, again, I'm going to call bullshit on all those national level organizations bringing in millions and millions, not just millions, but tens of millions of dollars a year. And the person who's doing the most work in our community on a regular basis is not able to attend for financial reasons. It's bullshit. And we're doing this like out of, I'm just essentially doing this out of our own pockets as well. So it's not like the community is doing a lot for just people in general. They're anyway, we'll get off that thing and talk to the rest of the people. There's anyone else out here. I was going to say talk to the rest of the people out here. But when you start start paying for things, then it's like, dang, this is a big industry. And if I did 3 degrees differently, and all I did was go, what's awesome? This gun. And what's awesome? This gun. Oh, bet you the trigger on this gun. Oh, you want to know about the grip angle on this one? Oh, I'll tell you about the red dot optics on this one. Let's get some holsters and some sights on this one. You know how much money I could be making a shot show? But I've done that in the past. It's a thing. Yeah. But anyway, who doesn't do it is Brooke. Thanks, Brooke, for being out there, and then or DJ for being out there helping Brooke. And then I'm going to finally get to Hemi's question from like a million years ago on the show. Would you sell 365? I'm guessing that's this SIG right here to get a Beretta Cheetah 80X. There's no way I would ever. I like Beretta. I don't hate Beretta, but I don't like Beretta guns, and I would never get the Berettas that you can take apart. Your adversary can take apart while it's in your hand. I mean, how many movies do you need to see of people taking apart a Beretta? You can do the same thing with a Desert Eagle, but a ninja can come up and grab a Beretta slide off of your gun as you're holding it. And there's not squat you're going to do about it because you don't think it can happen until it happens. And I'm kidding about ninja because anybody with a strong hand can do that from a Beretta. So there's no way I'm ever buying a Beretta. I'm never going to change my mind on that, but I know Tony likes them probably. And then I kind of like SIG, and this thing looks cooler to me. So I'm picking no, but I'll let Tony answer the real question.
The regular P365, the answer is no, because it doesn't fit my hand at all. So I'd probably trade that for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Um, and I haven't checked out the Beretta in my hand to see how it fits because it is smaller. But I know the old Beretta series, I like the way that felt. I like the way that handled. I like the clone of it that Gershon makes. I like the way that feels. So probably, probably. But again, that's because the P365, the normal one, doesn't fit my hand well. If we're talking about the P365 macro, that's a totally different story. I like that, but now we're talking about a much bigger gun. So yeah, for my reasons, yeah. And as far as somebody taking my gun apart, well, they can't take the knife apart.
They
I
can
got
try.
that too.
What about cost wise? Are these things about the same?
I don't even know. But I know you can always catch the SIGs on sale. So I don't know about how, how the Berettas are going, if you can catch them on sale or not. Again, this, I'm looking at that angle, dude, because you just pulled that up, right? That's what I'm looking at now.
Yeah,
That
this is
that angle, yeah, that pistol grip angle looks different on these.
it looks super straight, right?
Yeah.
Like super straight down. What are they? 380 or 9?
Yeah, they're 380s.
Oh, okay.
The Beretta Cheetah should be 380, and the Beretta Cheetah X just has some, more stuff on it. But I'm liking it.
One. No, I never owned this. I think I just played with one like this before.
Yeah, I played with the old ones, and I like the way the old ones feel. I cannot shoot this P365 for crap. Okay, it takes a lot of concentration for me to shoot the P365 accurately because it's so small, because I have to figure out where my finger goes and wraps around it and comes completely out the other side of the trigger guard. There is no using the tip of my finger on the trigger on a P365. So yeah, I would trade it in a heartbeat. It might not be for the Beretta, it might be for something else. I know I was dry firing the Smith and Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, and that's a sweet little pistol, and I could get my entire hand on it. It comes because there's such a high undercut on the trigger guard. It allows me to get all four fingers on the pistol grip to the same spot on my hand that the Glock 19 is when I held it. I actually got a marker. I grabbed the what do you call it? The Smith and Wesson 2.0, took the mag out, or maybe I left the mag in. I can't remember, but anyway, I marked my finger where that pistol comes to on my pinky. Like I held it and I opened my hand up and I marked where it is, and then I put that down. I picked up a Gen 5 Glock 19, and it came to the exact same line. I mean, the difference was half a width of a Sharpie marker. So that's what I'd probably go with right now off the top of my head. The trigger's nice. It's enough to get my hand on it. It's very thin. It's probably thin about the width of your pinky, most people's pinky. That's how wide that sucker is. And the striker fired, might go with that.
Then Hemi's saying, hoping Taurus brings more to their Toro, the Taurus Optics Ready revolver lineup.
Yeah.
I don't got a problem with putting optics on revolvers if you're going to put them on stuff, but not on a CCW revolver. I'd put them on like maybe a hunting revolver or a competition revolver.
They have their Smith & Wesson 686 size guns, and they also have the Smith & Wesson Model 60 size guns. And I think it would be really cool if they thicken up that top strap a little bit and allow it to actually have a red dot and just pick a dot. You know what I mean? Pick the compact with RMSC and just put it on there. Like build a top strap to actually take a red dot with a rear sight that actually. Go ahead.
Is there any way to know how many red dots there are anymore? I mean,
No.
For a minute there was EOTech and Aimpoint, and then Holosun or something, and I'm sure a bunch of them have come and go that people don't want to talk about because they invested in them. And then
Vortex, Loophole.
SIG, I know, started making them in 9 because I remember seeing the first. I think I remember seeing the first SIG optic. Or it might be messing up with flashlights. I know the first SIG thing though, kind of hitting the whole CCW accessory thing, was 9 in Florida. Because I just happen to remember, where it was in the building, and we were in Florida seeing those SIGs for the first time. But I think it was little red dots, and I thought it was neat. Here, so that was 9, 2009. There was already Aimpoint, was already EOTechs. Those have been around since like 5, and something else. What's the one that the Army uses? The non-adjustable.
Trijicon, Aimpoint, EOTech. Yeah, Trijicon, right. Aimpoint, EOTech.
Those are because it was kind of hardened and huge, and it was, some people had it, but most of the people got out of the Army didn't want that shit. So there was Aimpoint, and there was the other. But then, so SIG makes this little optic thing, this little red dot, and it was like $100, and back then that was the cheapest thing. So I remember not hating it because I didn't care that much and saying so, and holy crap, the shitstorm, because I'm not like a tactical guy. Everybody says I am, just because people I hang around with tend to like that stuff, or at least back in the day. And I don't have a problem with it. I'm not scared of it. I don't live for it, but I own it. I don't like tactical stuff, but I don't run around in it all the time. I do sometimes. Like, I'm not as scared of it, but you know what I mean? It's just like having cowboy stuff to me. I don't believe I have to be a cowboy to own a cowboy hat, right? If I want to wear a cowboy hat, I have to like devote my life to being a cowboy. Same thing with tactical stuff, right? If I wear a suit, I don't have to decide I'm going to wear suits for the rest of my life, right? I'm just going to own a suit and wear it once in a while, right? So anyway, so I remember saying, oh, the SIG thing looks pretty neat for $100, because I'm looking at, I got a lot of guns, and if I want to start putting red dots on stuff, I don't care if every gun is good. Like, some of them just exist. So, like, I didn't throw it away, or I didn't trade it in, because I didn't, for a lot of people don't sell guns. So, if you want to start putting dots on stuff, and I wasn't even thinking guns, I was thinking AKs and ARs back in the day. This was not on pistols. I never liked them on pistols. But anyway, the shitstorm I got, like, oh crap, why would you buy garbage? Why would you buy garbage? And, so I'm like, all right, you're probably right. Why would I buy garbage? And then I just existed. I just lived my life from 2009 until 2025. And you know how many of those SIGs still around, but you know how many of those companies have come and gone? And because of that, like, first interaction with me, at least, I was like, well, I'm not going to buy the $100 optic. I'll wait and buy a used good one from somebody who's buying the newer good one, because that's a whole nother layer of you can purchase. And that's what I do. I buy Surefire and I buy Aimpoint. And that's it. Like, I buy it from people that are getting rid of their stuff to get better stuff, and I help them get their better stuff, and I get my good stuff way cheaper than, and somebody puts some miles on it because I'm buying good stuff, right? So I've been watching people buy garbage, and here's the thing, like, I don't know, I've been around a lot of people and different levels of stuff. So I'm seeing people that are cops and people that are doing stuff maybe for security or something, or like maybe trainers where they're seeing all kinds of stuff. And then I'm seeing people that like buy 4 guns, and they have opinions on everything, and then everywhere in between. So I've seen people who buy these garbage things and then get all pissed, and then later on you see 2 years later they're back making pictures, and it's all Aimpoints and Trijicons and stuff, or whatever, Aimpoints and Surefires, because you learn your lessons. So I'm just saying, like, people that think I just hate on cheap shit most of the time because I like to hate on cheap shit, or people that suck in the D's of people, the companies that make the cheap shit. No, it's just, to me, it seems like a waste of our time and resources. If we're going to spend aluminum and stuff and spend LED light bulbs, let's just make them into better quality tubes. There's got to be companies in the United States, I think there are, that have, attempted that along the way, and, to compete with Aimpoint and stuff. But the come alongs, or whatever you call them, the flashlights and the optics and the couple other, some of the nylon and stuff. I'm just saying, it's just, now that I'm sitting here thinking about SHOT Show and stuff, that stuff started back in 9.
For me, people are always going to buy cheap stuff. Now, there's a difference between cheap stuff and inexpensive stuff. And it's like, it requires nuance, and most people, they don't even want that. No one wants to think of that deeply. Truthfully, they want to either love something or hate something. They don't want to have to read between the lines. And a lot of people want to be told how to feel about stuff, which is really freaking weird to me. Like, I can't really make up my mind. You should hate it. I really don't like that. What the hell is wrong with you? It's like, you can just look at something and go, I don't think spending $58 on a red dot is a good thing on my concealed carry gun. You should be
There you
able to think that. But you could go, okay, what's the best thing? Well, one of the higher end and most popular things with military and law enforcement is, you know, Trichicons. That's what the big money units put on, and they're kind of expensive. They probably cost as much as your firearm, but that's the one that's kind of what they call bomb proof, and you can beat the snot out of it. You can jump out of a plane with it. You can, swim, 50 meters below the ocean with it. All right, well, I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm just going to be carrying myself to work every day. And I'll take a training class, and I'll compete using my carry pistol like once or twice a month. What's that? Oh, then if you're going to do that, yeah, you can get yourself some Gideon optic. You can get yourself, you know, at a ball. Like there's other companies that all of a sudden you go from $700 to $250. You can get some hollow sides. You can get stuff like that for about that ballpark between $200 and $350. All right, cool. That's half of what that other stuff costs. Yeah, I'll check that out, and you'll be good to go. But understand that it's not going to be the same quality. It's good enough. It's not just as good, and there's a difference in that. I heard
go. Yeah,
that like a couple of times this week, and I kind of like how that is. There's good enough, and there's just as good.
that's a great point. And a lot of it's just made to fit, and without, and it's not like people are like, I know the difference, and I'm picking this, intentionally. It's just that they don't realize, oh, there's a spectrum of stuff over here. They see what's available in front of them at the store or on the, I don't know, the shelf or something, or on the line, and then they they point at the one that has the price point they want, don't realize or care the differences. And that's, I guess, I'm only raging or bitching about the people that choose to use the junk as real and then get all defensive if you challenge them on it.
Oh yeah,
In the
they
day,
get angry. How dare you? You're an elite. You're an elitist. You're an elitist. No. You're running around saying the wrong thing. You're saying this is just as good, and it's not. It's good enough. So don't tell somebody it's just as good because you don't know what they're going to use it for, or where they're going to grow, or what their budget is. That's one of the first questions I ask. Question one, question two. What are you going to use it for? How much money are you looking at spending? So then I can give you a more informed, or at least a more tailored answer.
DJ saying, I think budget is an appropriate synonym, implies lesser money rather than lesser quality. The lesser quality could be implied, but it's not directly expressed. Okay. I don't know. We had clones for a while. That's what people called them. And because they were garbage. And the thing is, the garbage companies didn't necessarily stay there. Or let's say if a company wanted to exist and they brought out a clone, or what we would call a clone back in the day, it was at first garbage because they didn't know how to make it right. Like they might have tried to backward engineer it, but that doesn't mean you got factories that can actually reproduce it. So they made stuff that looked the same. But if a company started like that and the factory was willing to do work with them and they wanted to improve their product, there are companies that got better, or there are companies that get better, right? Like they start with one product and they get better and they want to stay in business and they listen to customers and they get better. So that definitely happens. So I don't know. But my thing, I don't know. And like I said, I'm also raging about stuff that I haven't paid attention to in many years. But that sidetracks us as a community because people are willing to make the clones, or they were willing to make the clones. And that's where it kind of came from. But I was just thinking the original question was how many red dots even are there? Because like I say, they kind of did start from just the two. And then, or three, I guess, technically, and then kind of grew and then have blossomed in the last, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know if 10 years for sure, but 5 years into so many companies, I literally can't keep track. Every time I kind of tune in to somebody having a conversation about this stuff, it's like, like grandpa listening to the grandkids talking about TV characters. Like I have no idea the companies they're talking about, except for maybe Son or something that sticks around. They've been around for a while.
Yeah,
Vortex has been
Hollison's
around.
been around. Vortex has been around. Hollison has been around. And yeah, they're growing and changing. I mean, Vortex, not so much, but they're working on it. They're working on it. It was funny because Vortex was the industry disruptor for a while because they came out with their Vortex. Dang, I forgot what their optic was called. They had a prism optic.
It was like Schmidt Bender and Leupold. So unless
Yeah.
you're talking grands and like thousands and thousands of dollars for good glass, Vortex comes along with German glass, and I forget, but they got
Is
cheaper
it
glass.
Japanese? Right? Japanese glass? I don't know. They did some. No. They
Japanese
just
was
upped
the
their.
glass, and German glass was the new thing. They came in with some new sauce, though, right? And they're like, "Hey, look, we got some new glass," but it was way cheaper, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah." Well, a lot of people were like, "It's okay." There's still people that will not touch a Vortex.
Yep. There's still people that won't touch a Vortex, and really, I don't even care about them. But it really did become this thing. My whole issue was leave people alone and let them spend their money. Now, when they start blowing smoke up your butt and going just as good and saying silly crap like, "Yeah, I put 75,000 rounds through this a year," and I'm like, no, I know you. No, you don't. You know what I mean? No, you don't. Um, then that's the only time I have an issue with it. Outside of that, I don't care what people do. Use your thing, but don't lie to other people. Don't use a false, just lie about your experience or how much you spent. That's why when I talk about, um, what's the name of it? High Point. My High Point pistol, and the fact that I've put over 3,000 rounds through it when I wrote my review, I put over 3,000 rounds through it, a 40 cal. And people were like, "Oh no, you!" I'm like, "I have the boxes because I was reloading them. I was keeping the brass to reload, so it's not like I pulled a number out of my butt. Uh, it's not like I pulled a number out of my butt. I pulled the boxes of ammo out of my closet because I was getting them to my FFL and he was reloading for me. So that's why I know the particular round count on that one gun. But most people don't do that for the most part. A lot of the people that talk the most in gun forums don't really keep records. It's just how they feel or how many rounds they felt they shoot.
That's true. I haven't thought about that in a long time. I don't shoot that much, but so I've got guns that when you put them together, like an AR, like you put it together, you put a log book next to it, and then it now is got a what do you call it, an analog record of everything that ever happens to it. I know people that have books next to each other, for a little section of a book, let's say, or a book for each gun, that when it was put together, when it was shot, how many rounds were shot, when it was cleaned, lubed, when parts are replaced, brands. I mean, if you want to shoot good, then you can, well, I guess like anything, if you want to think of it as a full-time thing or think of it as a part-time thing or think of it as a hobby or think of it as a profession, right? Like, yeah, you don't assume nothing. You don't need to assume nothing. Like, unless you're, can't even imagine anybody. I know people that shoot a lot, like you're saying 57,000 rounds or whatever. I do know people that have bought ammo by the pallets each year, like literally whatever that is, tens of thousands of rounds, because it's way cheaper because they're going to shoot tens of thousands of rounds, and not everybody has time to reload or interest to reload. So, somebody's got to give them all that brass. But those folks often have a log where, they're keeping track of, because at a time, the thing is, and I've had this happen with my very limited competition experience, you're going to find out when your shit don't work when you're in a competition, not in your practice. So when they got a magazine that's got, I don't know, let's say whatever, 9,000 rounds through it, and they're going into a competition, they're not waiting another 1,000 rounds for the 10,000 round, preventive maintenance cycle. They're going to see that in the notebook, and they're just going to put a new spring in so that they've got a new spring for that next competition if it matters to them. And that's the difference between somebody who glitches in a match and somebody who has a flawless match, is somebody who's paying attention to shit like that. And people that get, you're allowed to, I spent most of my life, it's not like I know this stuff. I just hung around with people that figured out all this stuff and I watched them. I don't do all this stuff. I have a couple of guns with these logbooks. It's not like every gun has that. But, most of us just grew up And I guess most people just own a gun, and it's like a rake. You don't think about how often you're using it or maintenance of it. You use the rake, you put it back in the rake closet, right?
Yep.
Ready next time you use it, you grab the rake.
So, because I host diversity shoots and we use my guns often, especially during the early years because it was only my guns. Then it became, everybody's gun. Then I started sending my guns in without me, to let my guys run the port. And I stayed out and I actually talked to the people and instigated that and learned who the attendees were on a one-on-one basis. But my guns were on the line. So when, per gun, we probably shoot 300 rounds or more per firearm on the line twice a month, all year. So I had a 9 millimeter uh, carbine that was a PSA upper that I had built. And again, we're firing it on the range. People were doing it, 10 round magazine at a time. And what happened is I took that gun to a training class. And before lunch in that training class of running mags through it at a higher rate, right? Because I'm shooting more, I'm shooting faster. And again, I'd cleaned the gun before I went out. Got a round stuck in the chamber, and now I can't get it out. Actually, it had what do you call that? Squib load go off, and I have a round stuck in the chamber, and that gun is now dead.
Those are the
I
worst
can't
things.
get it out. Yeah. Pulled the trigger, got a weird pop, stopped immediately, dropped the mag. All of a sudden, it's not even a squib load, I don't think, because gunpowder fell out. So all the gunpowder didn't burn inside the case. All fell out. The case actually exploded because I put pictures up of it. The case exploded and the round is jammed and I can't get it out. I actually built the cleaning rod with a freaking 3-pound sledgehammer trying to bang it out on the tailgate of a truck. But the purpose of me saying this is how you run the gun makes a difference. It's one thing to have people shoot 10 rounds at a time in a clean indoor environment, and there's another to be out there in a sand pit running a gun and have it jam up on you. And that happened. And I was like, yeah, there's a significant difference. So even if your experience are, yeah, we put 10,000 rounds through this. Yeah, you put 10,000 rounds through in a clean environment, not outside, not running with it. And when you do that, in my opinion, you get a different outcome, or it's a different set of parameters that you're testing against. That's all. So when I give people advice, that's also what's the purpose of the gun. You can have a great gun that works wonderful if you're cleaning it every 500 rounds, and if you only shoot it at indoor range, and if you only shoot 1 or 2 boxes of rounds per range trip. So yeah, putting 100, 200 rounds through the gun twice a year is a totally different life for a firearm than somebody that shoots freaking competition and puts like 500 rounds through it on a weekend, plus another 500 rounds during the week because you're training and practicing at the range. Oh yeah, and your dry fire regiment where you're just pulling that trigger and getting the hammer drop on a dummy round, like 2,000 times a day. I'm just using the count my wife gave me when I'd be dry firing upstairs. And after about 10 minutes, she's like, "You fired that thing 2,000 times. Don't you know what the hell you're doing by now?" So
But
I'm just using her count.
the gun sitting there not being used is either sitting in a safe or it's sitting on your side too. And a gun that's sitting on your side not getting used is just a different environment for shooting than that gun that's getting used daily or weekly and constantly being scrutinized and taken apart and cleaned. It's like any tools that you neglect or don't pay attention to versus tools that you're constantly paying attention to. Guns aren't tools that are going to fall apart if you neglect them. That's the nice part. But the what's the word? All the rest of it, the freshness and the abilities and stuff are the same way. But that being said, none of us are getting in gunfights. So you can say all this you want. Like, it's all about what you feel you need to bring and what you feel you need to prepare for. So in reality, we live in a pretty calm country. We all have fire extinguishers. Very few of us are taking those fire extinguishers out when they get low and putting a fire up, or having somebody start a fire and then you run into the room and put it out. We're not doing shit like that. We're not even considering it. We don't even contemplate it. We don't have schools for how to put out fires. We all feel confident that we can use a fire extinguisher because we've seen it on TV or whatever. Or we have fire blankets, and we assume that a fire blanket is going to do everything a fire extinguisher is going to do. So all I'm saying is none of us, oh, dang, Dr. Nose out there. But the same as anything. We've all got, like you can go on and on, right? We've got lots of stuff that we assume we're going to do fine with when we need it. And there's no reason to brag on people because we pretty much do. But anyway, all I'm saying is, you know, like for the most part, people screw up, I'm sure. But for the most part, people are pretty competent all the time. Otherwise, we'd have accidents constantly on the roads and all kinds of gun accidents, people shooting themselves. And in reality, we really don't have that many accidents, either guns or cars, you know, compared to what we could
Really?
be negligent.
All right, I'll go ahead and say we really don't have that many gun accidents, but most people really don't shoot their guns. Um, they stay parked in the sock drawer in the closet at the house. I mean, if they really did shoot that, I mean, there'd be a hell of a lot more ranges out there. You wouldn't be able to get in them. I saw here in Jersey what happened when we got concealed carry. Now we had, understand, we've only had CCW in Jersey 2 years. We got 50,000 people that had carry. I think it's been 2 years since brewing. So we have 50,000 concealed carry holders. And for the last 18 months, every range was busy. Excuse me, for the first 18 months, every range was packed every day of the week. And now it's not so much and it's dropping off. And this was a place that, you know, we've been starving for that constitutional right to carry. And it had a blip, it had a high rise, and now it's just tapered off. Now it's not to what it was before brewing, but it was like, whoa, look at all this. And people started becoming, what do you call those things? Firearms instructors, and getting their certifications and doing all that hustle. And now it's like getting in on a realty market after they busted. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole bunch of people like, okay, I think we missed the boat. Yeah, you missed it. But I
The
think a
first
lot
wave,
more people.
the first wave,
What's up?
and the first wave, and these things.
Yeah.
It's not like a one and done. Like this is ripples or, you know, cycles. So the ones that stick around will be there for the next one, and then new ones will pop up or people will come back.
Yeah, that's the sucky thing about what's going on right now because it is fast. It does roll in and out. And, you know, even though I want it to be, everybody understands it's a right and we have to keep it alive by going to classes and by doing these and, you know, keeping these ranges going. I mean, we needed that so they're around for the next time. But that's just me wishing and hoping. You know what I'm saying? That is not realistic. Um, so some
Here's the
people are going to go out of business. Go ahead.
what you're saying, but I don't want you to feel like bad about nothing because, and I think of this every once in a while myself, everything that we have being old and experienced with gun ownership for a long time, excuse me, I'm hiccup up, having hiccups, is based on like our grandparents and our parents and their interaction with guns in society. And essentially they all sat there watching their rights get slapped around, unfortunately. What we've got coming up in front of us, the other side, the next generations are more offended by and more aware of their rights being trampled on. So I don't think we're doomed to repeat the same kind of apathy that we've had, but I think it's definitely there. It's interesting because I never thought about it this way before until you mentioned that and I started saying this. But you know, that apathy that we've lived through in the 80s, the 60s, which it started in, because why the fuck would we ever have these stupid ass federal laws in the 60s if there wasn't apathy? So they were willing to take it in the 60s and allow national level federal gun control again after 1936. I can almost see it in 1936 because the government was massive and everything was like, there wasn't even TV yet, right? Like, how the hell was anybody supposed to know what was going on? But in the 60s, no excuse. Like, so that's when you get Gun Owners of America and you get Second Amendment Foundation and you get the NRA, ILA, all being national level organizations offended by the 1968. But then we basically just been taking it. Like we haven't been,
Yep.
the whole generation just took it over and over. In 94, we got mad when they did the assault weapons ban and we took them all out of office. 2004, it gets taken away because no one has the balls to go near it. And then until 2013, they decide with that bullshit in Connecticut, let's go after guns again. And what did they encounter? Well, you know what? 13 wasn't just because of that bullshit atrocity in Connecticut. It was because of Heller. It was because of Heller. And they knew that with Heller coming out of nowhere and saying gun ownership is an individual right and we can carry where we want, that they had nothing. They were going to be destroyed. So they had to jump in and start doing stuff with Obama in 13. But anyway, it's a whole nother conversation. I just thought of that right now too. But all I'm saying is that apathy that we've lived through, I don't want to doom it on our next generations because we do got people that are different and capable. They were capable in the past. They obviously didn't do nothing with that capacity. Now there's people that have the potential, and I think awareness is necessary. And that's one of the reasons I'm always rage against the general bullshit tendency to just worry about grip angles and fucking Excaliburs. And I mean, the stuff at SHOT Show that's industry, I don't want to shit on it. It's necessary. We have to innovate. We have to get guns moving around, but the media doesn't have to drool over these little minor fucking cosmetic changes. Like if it's all guns are, when in fact it's like a tiny little fucking nothing of guns, right? It's like the base plate on a fucking magazine. Like rights are the fucking chamber and the magazine like interface, right? Like we need to worry about the important shit, not the frivolities or frivolity, whatever the word is. But anyway, I'm raging again. We got to get going. I need to get going. I got a bunch of stuff to do. But if anybody out there, I see a bunch of people out there. Dr. No's out there. Woods is out there. DJ's putting all kinds of links to contact representatives. But if you got any other questions out there, feel free to throw them out here. I don't think I got a couple from Woods to hit, but I'll let Tony kind of come back with all my.
The annoying part is because you saw me at my first SHOT Show. I was brought in to talk about with Maj Toure when he did the Unity. Tried to talk about unity in the firearms industry and how the industry needs to actually help grow the industry itself, grow the number of people, the type of people that die, the demographics. We need to add more people to it. One company showed up that I know of off the top of my head that was a firearms manufacturer, and that was Lionheart Industries. That was the only company that showed up.
I spoke about the diversity or whatever Maj called the panel. The panel wasn't like what anybody needs to do. It was that, hey, you got a changing audience, and here's how you can keep up with that changing audience, or here's how you on that changing audience. So the room was empty. I'm not going to disagree with you, but there was other advocates in the room who were covering it. Some of us, not fucking all of us, but there was gun shops in that room. There wasn't a lot of manufacturers. It was the first year I ever did anything. What's the word? Towards, let's not say the first year. It's one of the few times SHOT Show has ever done anything that's sort of towards activism rather than industry, which is different. They're an industry show. I try not to rag on them too hard, but it's an industry show, not an advocate show. But we have no other advocate show, so we have to use it as for advocacy as we can. So anyway, that being said, there were shops in that room, and then all the questions that were asked y'all on the stage were from shops, and then maybe from like Cheryl Todd throwing you a softball once in a while.
I mean, that's great. And Cheryl did throw a softball, but my whole thing was, it was that SHOT. You know what I mean? There's 4,500 or more companies there. There was one firearms manufacturer in the room, and I'm like, I can be upset that there was only one, or I can be grateful that there was one. So that's why I say their name. That's why I tell people who they are. That's why I'm making a beeline down to the basement to see them at SHOT, because they were that one that wanted to at least hear what we had to say. And they were interested enough to actually walk up on stage and start conversations with us. I had a conversation with the owner. So I think that's pretty cool. And I want to give them props for that. Also, I mean, to be fair, NSSF has actually spoken to me and want to work with me last year. And we're going to try to talk about it this year and get something going. I actually was at Ambassador Academy in Florida, February of last year, and again with the guys from SHOT, with the guy from NSSF, and he was like, 100% Tony, get your stuff together and we can talk, because we really want to be a part of what you're doing. So, and uh, October 30th, NSSF, I was with Maj Toure, and I helped set up an event at one of the ranges here in Jersey with Maj, and that was actually sponsored by the NSSF also, because they're helping Maj, or helped Maj with his 2024 tour. So the NSSF is involved in advocacy. I'm not even flinging poo at them at all. I'm happy for the opportunities we had. I'd like them to be repeated, and I'd like them to be bigger. And NSSF actually had something. It was crazy because you talk about the shops that were represented, or the shops that was there. Uh, Genevieve from Redstone is on the cover. Her picture is one of the ones at SHOT Show's diversity photos. They have Phil Smith on it. They have Genevieve from Redstone, and they have a couple of more people that are women or minorities, that are the face of diversity. I think that's what the email was called. Sadly, she passed away last year, but I still think it's cool that they have her picture up, because her and I and her husband have been on shows together uh, prior to ever meeting at SHOT Show. We met in person at that event at SHOT Show, that they came up to me and we had a conversation. So I think that's awesome. Sadly, the state uh, of California conspired with the landlord to do some shady stuff, and they ended up putting Redstone out of business uh, through the most diabolical bullcrap ever. Uh, Paperwork and bullcrap that they wouldn't actually give the landlord, whatever. Anyway, they did it through bullcrap means that was not their fault. They had a lot of business at Redstone, but because someone wouldn't let them complete the paperwork that was needed, they interfered with it and ended up putting their company out of business. And that really sucks, because they were a voice in California. Not only did they own a gun shop, but they were hosting events and growing the community by doing exactly the things we talked about during that uh, diversity and unity message. They were doing it consistently in California, and then they got shut down through bullshit.
All right. Well, we're going off on 3 or 4 tangents here, and we got to wrap it up.
Sorry about that. Yep.
No, that's all that we're here for. It's just that normally we rant, and I just got to get
You
going.
got to go, and I got to go too.
So it says, Woods was saying, for a group that accuses the gun people for being emotional rather than reasonable, the pro guns say stuff not backed by data often, which I guess is humans or whatever. But then he goes, example, you need 2 extra mags for carry when data says reloads in a citizen-involved incident are 98%. I'm guessing he says, very rarely do you need to reload. And then most of the incidents, I guess what he's saying, are 4 seconds and less than 4 rounds. Yeah, that's the average for sure. But just to play devil's advocate, since I carry mags, is you carry them for when your gun doesn't operate. And it doesn't matter how many rounds you're shooting, if you want to just get your gun to operate again. And then if you're carrying, I can see carrying 2, because if you're carrying 1, it doesn't really matter to carry 2. But if you're gonna maybe go shooting or something, like I could see why you'd carry 2. If you're in like Clover Tack, who can just go in his backyard and go shooting. Okay, so obviously that's a scenario, but I think there are scenarios for carrying 2. I'm not gonna say you always have to carry 2, but I'm not going to say just because if you're going to say that you only need to shoot 4 rounds, then why doesn't everybody carry revolvers? But I know Woods would say yes, because that's what he's trying to angle at probably.
Well, my whole thing is this. We know I studied this as a podcaster before, but I read about this since I was a kid, and I can only think of 2 times during civilian use of, defensive use of a firearm, that there actually had to be a reload. That's just off the top of my head. Doesn't mean I remember everything, but twice. Once was a shootout, a robbery in a Subway, and it was Subway, the restaurant. the sandwich restaurant. There was actually a shootout where the gangbangers tried to move the customer to a back room, and he refused, and that's when he pulled his gun, and he actually shot his 45 to slide lock, and his extra mag was in a crappy nylon pouch, and the strap broke and it fell down his pants leg. So he had to go for a secondary gun, which is one of those North American armed foldy. What is it? It was the Black Widow, they called it, the 22 Magnum folding North American arms pistol.
Okay.
That's what he finally got out to use. And by the time he got it out, the guy had ran out of the store because he hit him. He shot him through his neck, and the guy expired like 300 yards away outside, running down the street. So that was the only time I knew that somebody had to go to a reload. And of course, the other one is Stephen Williford, when he was going after the active shooter in Texas. He chased the guy down and was actually loading his mag by hand. As he was running to the gunfight, he had one round left when he stopped shooting. So luckily,
and that's a real one. I mean, it's definitely an outlier, right? But it's happened, and I would say an example of why empty guns are not. I'm not going to say you shouldn't have them, but I don't think they're a good idea.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Empty guns are not a good idea. But yeah, I mean, like I have my firearms here where I'm at now that we use for diversity shoot. No, they're not loaded because those aren't my home defense firearms. So why would they be?
Yeah, I don't mean like every gun either. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But what you have, and I don't know if his AR, because I never spoke to him about it, and I talked to Stephen, at least twice.
I've heard the story, and what's neat is every time not every time I've heard the story, he doesn't just tell the story like it's on a digital recorder. Like he just brings it up and he remembers different things. So I've heard a spectrum of the story based on like listening to him 3 times describe it. But anyway, yeah.
My question is this:
like he just grabbed a gun. It's not like he had a gun staged and intentionally it was empty. He just was like, "Oh shit, something's going down." He grabbed a gun.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I have firearms here, and it was like, "Oh snap! Do I grab this?" Because I do not have an AR-15 anymore as my home defense firearm, only because of I was watching a James Reed's video, and he was talking about percentage and perception of juries when it comes to what you use for a home defense firearm. I have other options. So, you know what I'm saying? I have other options and other things that I can use besides an AR-15 that don't look so, I guess the stupid word to use is dangerous to the uninformed, because I will not have a jury of my peers. I will not have 12 people on a jury that are Second Amendment advocates and go to the range like, twice a month. Those aren't going to be the peers that my jury is.
They won't understand what you're looking at. They'll just be looking at, or the people that are your jury will be looking at it through the movies, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Or the spectrum, or the prism of a movie goer. So Woods brought up what percentage of gun owners shoot their guns more than 5 times a year? Maybe 10%. Let's see, more than 5 times. I mean, obviously you mean more than 5 trigger pulls, but like go to the range more than 5 times. I think it's more than that, especially now. I think, like I said, if we got to keep looking at it, like there's the people that came before us, there's now, and then there's the people that'll keep coming, and they're different for sure. They're drastically different. The people that before, we just had guns in the closet, just the same way I don't go grab a shovel and run out in the backyard and dig a hole very often. Like, but when I do, I know how to use a shovel. You know what I mean? And some people own their shovel, and some people will buy a shovel, dig a hole, and then give that shovel to the Salvation Army. And then other people will, like me, will buy a shovel instead of paying somebody to dig a hole, and then dig my own hole. And then I have a shovel and I can dig a hole whenever I need to now. I think that's how a lot of people buy guns. Like maybe something happened to somebody they know, for some reason they got bug under their butt to buy their gun, and now it's just they got this gun. So I think that is a lot of people. I just think it's more than 10% are actively shooters. So I'm going to say 30 to 50, somewhere in there, probably 30 to 50.
I'd love to know,
but I don't know.
I'd love to know, but how do you know? Like, how would you get this number for real? Because again, prior to 2020, There's a whole different type of person. 2020 brought in new people and a new perspective to a lot of people that already own guns. All of a sudden, they broke them out and started coming to events. I mean, I noticed it with my event and who my volunteers would, and who were people coming out for the first time going, dude, I haven't taken my gun out of the closet since 97. You know what I mean? So, like, how many people are those? I'd really like to know just so we don't have to guess. Because I remember having a lady at work because I'm openly the gun dude at work. And I heard a lady bragging about how she and her husband go shoot all the time. They go twice a year. I was like, all the time is twice a week. To me, that's all the time. And I used to go to the range 3 to 4 times a week only because it was close to my work. So I stopped by the range 3 to 4 times a week to shoot. And that was during the week. I definitely hit it on the weekends. And I would dry fire a lot. So the more diversity shoots I started doing, the less I started going to the range on my own because I was at the range so much or arranging for the range. Anyway, I know you got to go, and I got to go to the store too because we're trying to get all our stuff done before we hit shot. So I'm not buying stuff. I'm not taking an Uber to a store in Vegas somewhere to buy something. So I'm doing backup batteries.
I can accomplish that, but I don't need to do that. I know there's places to go in Vegas. But you get a car, you Uber everywhere.
Yeah, we Uber everywhere.
Okay.
So I got Derek. So it's the guys from our podcast and Derek from Kids Safe. We're all staying in the same Airbnb together.
Well, we'll talk off air about where and stuff.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna we got to kill it because otherwise we'll keep going. But there are some other questions. Thanks for your participation out there, guys, and for throwing stuff out. But if we're able to, maybe we'll do it on Saturday. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, the next time we do a show, throw some of those questions back because I don't feel like we hit some of these as much as we could chat about. But anyway, thanks everybody for joining us, and good to see Dr. No again. I hope everybody out there is having a good weekend, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yes, sir.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.